we're doing is pretty amazing, very impressive. Although I must say it still seems very, very calm compared to yesterday when we had 2,000 very, very loud, almost 2,000 very, very loud students running around, 8th graders. And I'm pretty sure probably all of you were reminded, if you weren't, I certainly was, why we are not working with 8th graders. And we're working here at SUNY Group. It was a great event, great participation by faculty, staff, and of course Gina and Chase who was helping put it together. So just a great, great way to expose students to careers and, of course, behind the scenes and our own personal interests, exposing them to SUNY Group. So thank you to everyone. Today we have a great presentation planned, so I will not take up any of your time right now. I'd like to ask Brenda Dodd to come up and introduce our student performer.
Good morning. This is Rashad Wilson. He is a sound engineering student and a voice student of Peter Sicilian. His artistic name is Rashad Justice, which you see, or you will see on the screen. So when you decide you want to go and buy his recordings, you're going to have to look for Rashad Justice. What's really great about what you're going to listen to right now is he wrote the piece himself, and everything that you hear, he's a sound engineer, he's done. So all the production, it's all by Rashad. So this is a pretty perfect thing since this was all about technology today. So enjoy.
What's the point of friends and foes when you always feel alone? Oh, oh, oh. Bring me solace, bring me hope. I can't make it on my own. Power makes my soul decay. My loyalty is raining on its own parade. This can't be the only way. I'd rather have my freedom than your holy gates. I'd rather have my freedom than your holy gates. Blinded by the blinking every night, seeing dreams that I may never find. And I'm always too late to realize we're running out of time. Gluttony consoles me slow. Lust keeps me sedated till I'm comatose. And I cannot control impulse. I've been far too jaded to play Romeo. Oh, why am I still moping? Yo, this is everything that I was hoping for. And I need you to hold me close. Why's my mind so crowded when I'm lonely? Oh, why's my mind so crowded when I'm lonely? Oh, so I'll create some friends and foes. I will never be alone. No, 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 no. They'll bring you solace, they'll bring you hope. 'Cause I don't need it anymore.
by name, because you'll remember that in the future. So now I'd like to ask Dr. Drum to come up and give his presidential address.
Thank you, Penny. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. And thanks for coming out this morning on a busy day when I know that a number of our colleagues who can't be here because they're busy helping students and get ready for their term starting on Monday. Great morning. 2020. Hard to believe. When I got here 10 years ago, hard to believe in 2 weeks, 10 years. All the talk was about UB 2020, and then SUNY 2020, and it seemed like forever away, and here it is. And I could hardly think of a better way to start it. I've never seen anything like that event that we had here yesterday. 44 years I've been doing this work one way or another. Started as a student, doing the work 44 years ago, which ended up launching my career. Mind-boggling to think of 2,000 eighth graders in one place at one time. The logistics that went into that, and I can't thank Gina and our team and everyone. I saw so many faculty and staff around helping, which you have to, because you have to have some adult supervision for those kids. But they all seemed excited and engaged. Of course, who's not excited to be out of school for a day? But we put on some great exhibitions for them, along with our business and industry partners in the community who were here to demonstrate the kind of jobs they have to offer out there. Just really have never seen the school. It was certainly a historic day for Broome and probably for the county. And want to thank the schools as well for the logistics, the busing, the food, I mean, the whole thing. Not easy to put that together. So to Gina and our team, a great big thank you for a really historic day. And we've been talking about it for years that kids here and finally made it happen. I want to thank the exhibitors who came out to exhibit for us this morning. Some of the exciting things happening around campus. There's so much more, and each year we try to show off a little bit more about what we're doing. I don't know if that technology thing is ever going to take off, but someday maybe. And when I'm done here, please don't take it personally, but I have to run to a board meeting downtown, a very important board meeting for the incubator and parking for the Culinary and Event Center. Am I advancing the computer here? Where do I? What's up? Pointing toward the screen. There we go. No? Oh, there we go. I saw this recently. Some of you may know, certainly management folks, and those of you who studied leadership and management for your advanced degrees, know the name Peter Drucker, probably the premier management leadership researcher of the 20th century. So I noticed this a few weeks ago. I have a number of his books in my library. There's still a Peter Drucker Institute Foundation that pumps out management and leadership research all the time in his name. But it really struck a chord for me as a college president, or for any of us who are in leadership roles today, probably throughout the world, given what's going on in the world and the amount of turbulence that we all face. But it's something we have to constantly remember. It's very hard for us. It was a headline in the Chronicle yesterday. Management 101. Why is it hard to do out-of-the-box stuff in higher education? Was the top headline in the online Chronicle yesterday. But we've got to figure out new ways to operate, and we can't do it with the way we thought yesterday, like it or not. It's a brave new world out there on so many fronts. Stephanie Melbourne sent me this article, and some of you the other day, and there was just another Tech Trends article that was in the Chronicle yesterday, Tech Trends for the 2020s. And everybody, I don't know if it's the first one here, but this was an editorial just earlier this month with the top 10 trends in higher education. different entities have different top 10 trends, but several of them overlap, and certainly one of the big ones that does. 75% of today's undergraduates are non-traditional learners. Now, a lot of the stuff we see here today is certainly non-traditional instruction as compared to what I experienced in 10 years of college with so much, not entirely chalk and talk, but probably 75% of my 10 years of college were chalk and talk. Again, the challenge for us, we've talked about this for years, is it's not the lion's share of our market. Part of the reason why universities and graduate schools, like Binghamton University's graduate enrollment is growing so rapidly, and undergraduate enrollment is not, is because you've got a lot of adult learners out there, some needing associate degrees, some needing bachelor's degrees, lots needing graduate degrees. That's all part of the market, but it's an opportunity for us because it's not been the majority of our market. While it is the majority of the market in the world, certainly in our world, in the United States today. Another trend, reducing administrative costs and more reliant on foundation support. We've always ranked pretty high in SUNY for the right reasons, for the percentage of our budget spent on administration, as compared to the percent of our budget spent on classroom support activities. That's something we've got to continue to pay attention to going forward for obvious reasons. We've always been, for our size especially, we've been at the top of the heap. We have a certain economy of scale that, say, Columbia Green doesn't have, but we don't have the economy of scale of an Erie or Suffolk or NASA. So they tend to do a little better than us. If you think about it, you divide the president's salary by 20,000 students versus our 6,000 students, and the economy of scale is a little different. But for colleges our size and smaller, we do pretty well on that. We need to be sure we continue to. Foundation support, we're very fortunate. We have an outstanding foundation. I came from the foundation quarterly meeting this morning, and we're very fortunate to have the strong foundation that we have, which most community colleges do not have. Consolidation of colleges and formation of a new generation of national universities. Everybody has this on their list. The Southern New Hampshire universities, the Arizona State universities, the others that have been around for a very long time. Now, he's the new president. You see Empire State College in the news all the time. Trying to expand their footprint. They came visiting here several weeks ago. Might like to get them on campus someday when we get further down the renovation front. They prefer to be out of the state building downtown where they have offices, but they're free, so for the time being they stay there because the state doesn't charge them to be there. But I'd love to have them on campus someday if we can find some space for them because of that adult population market. Many of those folks want bachelor's degrees and then may not even get an associate degree along the way, but will take a lot of classes with us. Micro-credentialing and standardization, lots of conversation going on around that. We have our own conversations going on here. I know the standardization scares traditional academics to death in our world. Where the world is moving, not entirely, but in a big way. And we've got to get on board with that one way or another if we want to be able to compete in the 2020s and beyond. Publicizing the actual costs to attend. We've tried to do this, or really focus this trend. Is focused more on the more expensive institutions and private institutions that have their discount rate with their foundation. Not everybody pays the full rate to go to Columbia or Colgate because everybody's getting a lot of financial aid. So what is the actual cost of attendance? We've experimented because half of our students go for free. I think slightly more than half of our students go for free between Pell, TAP, all the aid that they get. And 65% of our students don't pay tuition, they're just paying fees. So the cost of attendance here, when you just put the, whatever it is, $4,700, out there is not what the vast majority of our students pay per year. It's a whale of a bargain to attend Broome and most community colleges. Trying to get our arms around that, because free tuition isn't free, even their Excelsior Scholarship isn't free per se, but struggling with how to advertise the real cost of attendance is something the entire industry is struggling with, including us. This was an interesting one. No more remediation except in specialized institutions. There are lots of folks out there, the pundits and analysts in our business who do research on this that say this is what community colleges are becoming in the new demographic world that we face. Should we? You know, that's been debated for generations with community colleges. Or will new institutions be created that focus on remediation, and the community colleges will be something different as well. But right now, the demographers out there see community colleges moving more and more in this direction, as we have for a long time. The pace is likely to accelerate, is what they're suggesting here with this trend. Something we all know and would certainly agree with, that faculty-free or faculty-like models of delivery are seen not as effective as just straight technology delivery. I don't think anybody in here would disagree with that. That's good news for us, and it means our move toward more hybrid delivery continues to be a trend, has been a trend for a long time in our business, and we need to continue down that track. The benefits of collaboration far outweigh the drawbacks. We saw the benefits of collaboration yesterday, tremendous benefit, although enormous amount of planning and logistical know-how to go into that yesterday. You know, our collaborations with our K-12 partners, with BOCES, with Binghamton University, and others, they're all a challenge, but there's been no doubt in my mind for a long time, in spite of the challenge, even our collaborations with SUNY itself, that overall the benefits outweigh the drawbacks of collaborating, as challenging as that can be, and we need to continue what we're doing and find more ways to collaborate out there if we're going to have any hope to grow in the future. Employers will increasingly find value in higher education, but with more emphasis on cost and value. We know that. It's all the time. The stress, much of the stress on the upper echelon of higher education, the well-known but very competitive privates, is about their cost. And this is a benefit for community colleges. But for folks outside that 50 to 65% range, that 35% who end up in the middle class squeeze for community colleges is a challenge for us. Again, our benefit is we've got a strong foundation, and we can help them out with private funds, and we need to continue to keep emphasis on that, or increase that emphasis on helping that 35% that have to pay more to attend here. But this is certainly for the senior institutions around and the expensive privates will continue to be a challenge for them for the foreseeable future, and I'm sure we'll see more mergers, consolidations, and closings this year, just as happened in 2019. The for-profits will clean up their acts and become more mainstream. For-profits have kind of come and gone, even here locally. And it will be interesting to see. That's a mixed message for community colleges. It will be great if they're more reliable and not getting their students into tremendous debt without a credential. That's been their biggest challenge. Others as well, but that would be a challenge for us. If the for-profits do get reclaim their foothold that they once had before the Obama administration took them on, and it very well could happen with the help of the current administration, that'll be a challenge. It'll be an additional challenge for us and for all community colleges in the future if that's actually a real trend. So lots to think about. I go back to the opening slide that we can't solve today's problems with yesterday's logic. And in our line of work, it's very hard for us to get out of yesterday's logic because it's worked so well for us for generations. Yesterday's logic it's worked very, very well for higher education in our nation. But it's pretty clear by all the trends today that it's working, but it's not working well any longer. So I look forward to continuing the conversations with all of you for how we can do things differently in the future. We're going to have to start to make some changes for the coming fall, and then look at the demographic cliff a year from this June, when, as we know, and I've said before, our Broome County High School graduating class will be 10% smaller than it's going to be this June, in just 1 year. So we've got our work cut out for us. We definitely have the horses here to do it, as one of our department chairs reminded me recently, and we're going to have some serious conversations about that this term. There are already serious conversations going on. We need to continue those and make some tough decisions and move forward and try them out. Thank you for your help, and I look forward to working with you on these tough challenges this semester and beyond, and have a great morning. I have to run to the Incubator Board meeting downtown. Sorry, I can't stay for the rest of this. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Dr. Drum. First section today, we're going to, we are going to remember those who are no longer with us. So first we have Ellen M. Kaczynski from the Registrar's Office. Also Lawrence R. Mayer from the Chemistry Department. And Stephen Stalker from the Music Department. Also, we have some retirees to announce. Janice Blinko from Finance, with 30 years of service. And William Stasko, custodial, 11 years of service. Now to announce new hires or changes in status from the Academic Affairs Division. Nadar Ali, Senior Staff Assistant in the Registrar's Office. Nadar, you want to stand up so we can recognize you? You were here. His supervisor sent him back. Next, we have Sylvia Briga, Interim Director, Marketing and Communications, way up there. Sarah Blansick, Academic Advisor. Brian Krutu, Technical Assistant 2A in the Accessibility Resources Department. Justine Domino, Special Events Coordinator, Marketing and Communications. Nigel Deacon, Technical Assistant 2A, Business and Professional Studies. Wendy Ham, Assistant Professor of Nursing. Kenneth Marble, Assistant Professor, Mechanical Engineering Technology. Margaret Sullivan, Senior Staff Assistant, Temporary in the Admissions Office. Maya Shostak, Interim Director, Admissions Office. Danielle Weeks, Technical Assistant 2A in the Hospitality Department. And Erin Wilburn, Assistant Librarian, Learning Resources Center. We have new hires or changes in status in the Administrative and Financial Affairs Division. Brian Arnold, Carpenter, Maintenance. Claudia Beebe, Senior Account Clerk in Purchasing. Judy Clark, Payroll Supervisor in the Payroll Office. Mary Gilbert, Office Manager, Facilities in the Budget and Finance Department. Jessica Griffith, Senior Account Clerk, Finance Office. Peggy Holmes, Payroll Administrative Officer, Payroll Office. David Legakis, Director of Facilities. David, aren't you back there?
He's out there. He's out in the hall,
I thought I saw him.
avoiding everybody. He waved.
Christina Schmurder, custodial worker in the custodial department. And Matthew Whiteman, HVAC systems technician 3, maintenance department. Okay, welcome to all the new people, or congratulations on changes in positions. So I've accomplished 6 months. I'm still alive and I've survived and have learned a lot of things since I've been here and really enjoyed my time here. I still have yet to meet several of you. So one of the things that I'll be doing probably this spring semester is showing up at some of your offices just to say hi and get to know you a little bit. But if you're anxious and you don't see me, feel free to also stop by and come say hi to me. But I will be trying to make the rounds even as I'm walking around, and I'm kind of surprised there's still people that I haven't officially met. So I want to make sure that I do that. But learned a lot of things and looked at a lot of things, taking my time to get a sense of where we are and where we're going. One of the things that obviously we've been concentrating on a lot is the Middle States self-study. Our visit will be next spring, so when we're up here next year, we'll probably all be a little bit more tense because our Middle States team will be coming. Not that we won't be prepared, but visits are always a little nerve-wracking. Our groups have done a lot of work. We have seven working groups, actually 8, because we also have a compliance working group. But those groups have been doing a lot of work. They've probably been coming around, asking you questions. If they haven't, they probably still will. Asking questions, doing research, looking through documentation, gathering documentation, and trying to reply to the Middle States Standards of Accreditation. Again, 7 standards. They've done a lot of work. They've gathered a lot of evidence. This spring will really be kind of gathering more, but also whittling some of that down, trying to make sure what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, categorizing all of the evidence. This will also be the time when we will start holding informational forums as well, so that everyone knows where we are, everyone has an opportunity to see the evidence that we've gathered, make comments, see if you think we've missed something, if something seems inaccurate. So it really is a college-wide process, so we want to make sure that this spring we have those open forums where various groups can come, see what we've done, comment on that. It probably won't be a final document, well, it won't be a final document by any means at that point, but we will have information that we can present to you so you can kind of take a look at where we're at with that. And then what we'll really be doing is just kind of putting that together. The writing will happen this spring. It will begin. It probably will not be complete, although we'd love to think that it will be, but I suspect we'll probably be going back and forth and doing a lot of edits and reworking it all through the summer. And then next fall we will have a preliminary visit from our team chair. We don't know who that is yet, but we will probably know this spring or definitely early summer, but hopefully this spring, and we will find out who our team chair will be, and then we'll start making arrangements for them to come in the fall. So that will be very busy, and all of you will hear more about that, and we'll be asking for your input as we go along. So that is moving along. But what we've learned is there are a lot of things that we still need to do, things that we need to clean up. So some of the other bullet points that you see here are things that relate to that. Others not so much, but I'll point them out as we go along. But I did think it was very important to, and I'm sure you all know, but there's been a ton of work for years and years and years, far before I came here. But the Culinary Events Center will officially be holding classes next week, so that is a very big deal. It is absolutely gorgeous, and like I said, tons of work from many, many people here at the college. And that's why Dave is sitting back there smiling, because it's almost, well, I'm sure there will be a lot more work, but a lot of the physical work has been done, and it's just gorgeous. There will be a grand opening celebration later in the spring, but classes will begin there in January, so if you can get down there and see it, I think you'll be very, very impressed. It's beautiful. It's very exciting. So some of the things that we'll continue to work on, I mentioned early on in the fall, retention is obviously going to continue to be a big deal, particularly in light of, you all know, declining enrollment, high school population, younger people. Population is just gradually declining, which means we're not going to have tons of students, at least from this area, flowing into our doors. So we do have to make a concerted effort, not that we shouldn't be anyway, obviously that's our mission, but really working very hard and looking at new ways to improve our services, make things more consistent, provide those services to our students in an effort to retain our students. So we'll be focusing on that. Some of the groups that you'll see below are focusing on that as well. So that'll continue to be something that's very important to us. In addition, we are looking for new areas to expand. Broome County only has so many bodies. We're continuing to focus on getting as many of those as we can, but obviously we can reach out to other populations as well. One of the things that we're trying to get established is a center in Oneonta, where we can get some of the students in that area that Oneonta does not have a community college, so we're kind of focusing on that area to do some different things, and I think Furman today will tell you about some of that, but some of that involves video conferencing, some of that involves really focusing again on our online programs, and figuring out how we can expand our online efforts as well, and also looking at some other areas where we might want to reach out to other communities. I've actually already had an inquiry, hopefully it's positive, I believe it is, from Oneonta, SUNY Oneonta, who wants to talk with us about possible collaboration with our Oneonta facility. So as we get that going, we'll probably be offering short-term opportunities for students, non-credit opportunities where they can see what we're doing here and also have the opportunity to take those classes in Oneonta. So more to come with that, and we'll be looking at some of that technology to expand a lot of offerings, and probably in a month or so we might be able to put together a presentation at least for all of you to come and kind of get a sense of what that really looks like and maybe what the possibilities are for some other opportunities. So we'll continue to talk about that. With that in mind, we're also looking at some of the IITG grants from SUNY, looking at technology and collaborative opportunities and ideas that we can do. All of your deans have information on that, so if there's anything that you're thinking about in terms of some technology opportunities that maybe we could get some grant funding for, speak to your deans and we can look at possibly some opportunities there as well. And I'm sure some of the things you see today, hopefully with Furman, might inspire you to think of some new ideas. Work group accomplishments, these are the work groups we mentioned this fall. We had 3 work groups. We had the enrollment work group, which really focuses on enrollment and retention. Some of the groups I'm going to give them, they've done some really good background work on whether there was an issue or where we should be going with it. So this spring, those charges will be very focused on what now is the outcome, what are the plans for these groups, and what are the recommendations coming from those groups. I don't really need to do that with the enrollment work group because they did a fantastic job, and they have 4 subcommittees that are working to get their projects going, which does focus on retention, consistency in our admissions, and in our continuing student process. So you'll hear more about those in the spring when they've suggested what those changes are, and then coming to the various shared governance groups. We also have the micro-credentialing work group, which will also be providing some guidelines, hopefully by the end of the spring, which again will be going through the shared governance process. And also the flexible working group will have some recommendations as well by the end of the spring semester in terms of where we're going. Also, some of the things that we've been busy on, and I know that all of you are aware of at this point, are the updates to the program review process. I think we've gotten that pretty well established, and if you still have questions on that, we'll be happy to present to various departments, divisions, in terms of the program review process and the steps along the way. Also taking a look at some of the workflow and some of the processes that we have now and seeing if we can streamline those a little bit, as well as focusing on the catalog and making sure that we're consistent between our catalog and our website and all of the information that we're providing to outsiders as well as insiders, which will also be very, very important when middle states comes. And then looking at some of the policies and procedures in the academic division that we may need to update, and again, looking at a way for maybe how they flow through a shared governance process a little bit better so that everyone is aware of where they're at. And that is really kind of a very quick summary of some of the things that we're doing. But again, I didn't want to take up a lot of time because we do have a great presentation, and it kind of flows into this whole reason why you see all of the technology around. One of the things, and we talked about the program review process and our assessment activities, and involved in the assessment activities are looking at all of the information that's coming in. And one of the areas that we really wanted to focus on was our student opinion survey that we received data back from last year. And we look at what the students think about us. And one of the things that they said, and it kind of puzzled us, and we had a lot of conversations around it, were they didn't feel like we offered enough technology. So we talked a lot in our CAO work group about what that really meant. We looked at the equipment that's around the campus, which is actually pretty impressive. And we were trying to figure out what is it the students are looking for. And then we talked about little pockets where a lot of really impressive technology, innovative technology ideas are taking place. So I talked to our very own Furman, who is a technology genius, and asked him if he could kind of talk about how maybe we can let people know what the technology is, or you bring your interest to him and tell him kind of, here's what I was thinking about doing, and see some of the things that he can do. So I'm talking about what he's doing before I really formally introduce him. So let me just tell you a little bit about Furman. Furman has been here at SUNY Broome since 2013 as the Assistant Director for Technology Services. If it plugs in, chances are you can call him to find how to fix it. He loves all things tech and is a self-described tech evangelist. That is his words. He's also the lead technical director for the Luma Projection Arts Festival, which happens in downtown Binghamton every September. He says, if you happen to see me running across campus without a coat, please feel free to yell at me. So, Furman, come on up and tell us all of your great stuff.
Just a reminder, I don't take myself very seriously, in case you guys don't know me yet.
None of us do either.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And one more time, I really want to say thank you to all the people involved with this Spark event yesterday. I just want to echo what other people have been saying here, which is, I've never seen anything like it. It was absolutely fantastic. And for all the tech that was happening all over this campus, I got one call for one HDMI cable, which I was glad to have. So it was fantastic. Everyone did a great job. So thank you again. You guys are wonderful. So. All right. So I think everyone mostly knows me by now, but for those of you who don't, I'm Furman Romero. I'm the Assistant Director for Technology Services here at SUNY Broome. And what you might not know about me is that this is the best job I've ever had. Every day, my team and I get to talk about technology. We get to just sit in our offices and play with cool stuff. We get to play with new software, play with new hardware, work with faculty and staff on whatever the projects are that they want to do. But most importantly, we get to play this really important role in supporting the mission here at SUNY Broome, and that is to support teaching and learning. So, while there's some divisions on campus who have technologists and technical assistants who don't work in my department, for the most part, my team and I are responsible for integrating and maintaining the stuff that you guys see and touch every day. If it's on our campus and it's some sort of a technology, chances are, as I said, if you call me to ask how to use it, how to fix it, or whatever, we can help you figure that out. I can point you in the right direction. And so, to be honest, I absolutely love this job. I take it very seriously, even if I don't take myself very seriously. I tend to describe myself as a technologist. To me, this means that technology is something that I understand very quickly. When I encounter a new piece of software or hardware, immediately I'm just thinking, what else can we make this thing do? I'm constantly challenging my team to say, what else can we do with this, or how can we use this in some other way? And that really, it carries over to my personal life as well. You should see my basement. Aside from my Bitcoin miners that I just recently shut down because I'm getting ready to move, there's a ton of other projects that are down there, just like electronics or this or that, and I just don't know why my wife stays with me. So, but being a technologist and loving problem solving isn't something new. It was something I discovered about myself when I was quite young, and it was while I was an avionics technician in the United States Air Force on the F-15 Strike Eagle. And that's where we're going to start today. Today I'm going to talk about technology, and actually, we've got a little more here. Today we're going to talk about technology and problem solving. I'm going to talk to you about how I learned to approach problems from a new perspective, how I think that we can approach problems here on campus in a new way and better handle the problems that we're going to encounter and that we are encountering. For those of you who don't know, the F-15 is a twin-engine fighter jet that's been in service in one way or another since the late 1970s. Even though the United States has purchased other jets, they can't bring themselves to retire this last iteration of this thing because it is just absolutely incredible. We've actually never lost one in combat. They cost between $35 and $45 million each. And as a matter of fact, when I think about them, I wonder why they let 20-year-old kids climb all over these $35 million aircraft with almost no supervision. And so having twin engines, aside from additional power, and failover protection, offers a unique benefit to support. That is, maintenance personnel can actually work on the jet while it's running, and with the pilot in the seat. It's a benefit that's allowed me to identify a unique talent that I had when I was in the military. When a pilot first gets into the aircraft, they have to go through a checklist, right? It's making sure that everything works. Sometimes when you get on your plane, like you go down the jetway, you'll see the pilots in there going through stuff. That's their checklist. They're making sure everything works. And on a fighter jet, it's exactly the same. The difference is, on these larger jets, they have generators, so if something goes wrong or whatever, that's why you sit there in the heat with no air or whatever. But on fighter jets, they have to completely turn everything on. There's no generator. So if something goes wrong during that checklist, that's it. If it's a radar system or a guidance system or anything like that, the pilot's got to get out. You're not going to fly that day. But with a twin engine jet, there's actually one last chance, and that is they can shut down one of those engines and allow maintenance personnel to actually go out there and work on it. So, as a matter of fact, we actually have a former Air Force pilot here in our audience today, Lieutenant Colonel Steve Call. Raise your hand. All right, so watch this, okay? So, when you're sitting in the pilot seat and you're doing your checklist and something goes wrong, and you got a call to have somebody rush a part out to you and fix it, what's it called? Red ball. There you go. It's called a red ball. And the reason for that is actually harkens back to 1944, when General Patton was trying to move parts across to Europe. It was almost 100 days after D-Day. He had to get parts deep into France. A little history lesson here. And actually, Lieutenant Call actually told me that there's another version of this story as well. So you have to look it up, the Red Ball Express. It's fascinating. It was today why we still call things a red ball when there's a pilot in the seat. So today the ground crew, this is what happens. When they're in the jet and something goes wrong and someone's got to come out and fix it, we still call it a red ball. So having twin engines is just one of these things on the F-15 that allows these 20-year-old kids to run out there and work on this $35 million aircraft. So cue 20-year-old Furman. This kid worked on $35 million aircraft. and with almost no supervision. So a quick note about the young men and women who do this job. It's not easy. It's actually a pretty complicated job. And the reason for that is because, in order to do it, you have to retrain the way that you think about problems. You're not just going out just to simply fix a thing or click a button. It's pretty rare. And oftentimes the solution only becomes apparent from fully understanding how the technology works, where it's coming from, and approaching it from a different angle. All while being completely blind, because you're hooked up to the pilot on a wire that goes up to the top of the jet. The jet's sitting 10 to 15 feet off the ground. You can't see the screens, you can't see anything that's going on. So you're just working with the pilot to try to fix that problem, just one-on-one, trying to make that work. So generally speaking, when I'm walking up to the jet for a red ball, the only thing that I know is what system is maybe not functioning, maybe not working, maybe on fire, who knows. So to be successful, so remember, these jets, these are high-performance fighter jets. They pull 2 to 3 Gs every single day. They fly supersonic, so it's not uncommon for things to be broken on these things, especially when they turn them on. Overnight, the maintenance guys work on the jets and get them ready, usually for the next day for whatever the mission. And whether we're in combat or not, we would fly every single day, all day. And it's basically just non-stop training. So I remember one day, I was in Kuwait. This was shortly after 9/11, and I was on the truck, and you drive around this launch truck, they call it, and we came over radio, red ball radar. And I perked up right away because that's one of my systems, and I thought, okay, let's hear what's happening. And they said it again, Red Ball Radar Aircraft 364. Okay, it's a very common way of presenting information. And now, we had worked on 364 the night before. It had been broken for this radar problem for a while, and we couldn't figure it out. The last thing that I could do was try to swap out a control processor. So I had one actually with me. We pulled a spare part and it was sitting between my legs. And so as I, if there was a problem, I could just swap out the part and, get him going, get him flying on his way. So I walk out to the jet and connected on my comm. I said, sir, what seems to be the problem today? And he says, he says, the radar's broke, Chief. And I said, okay. All right, well, what's going on? And he goes, I can't move the antenna at all. And I thought, okay, so an antenna is one of those things you can't fix, like in a Red Ball. It's in the front of the jet, and it just doesn't work. But there's certain things that you can do. So I said, well, what's happening? He said, it's slammed all the way into the bottom. And I said, okay, this is a hydraulically driven antenna. And I said, I'm thinking in my head, as long as it's not to the left side. Left side is where all the servos get calibrated. As long as it's not slammed to the left, we're going to be okay. I can probably fix this thing. So I said, so is it slammed all the way to the bottom? And yeah. And I said, left or right? And he goes, left.
Damn it.
Crap. It was probably a little bit more flavorful than that in the moment, but I said, all right, well, let's try some stuff. So you guys know the IT guy's super secret way of fixing something. So I said, sir, why don't we try turning it off and turning it back on again? So as it booted up, I could actually hear the hydraulics slap the antenna right back down to that bottom left corner, and I was already thinking in my head that we were going to have to ground it board. So I turned to my production supervisor and I let him know that it was a radar problem, and I gave him the ground abort signal, and that generally notifies all the ground crew to get the spare jet ready, because once you ground abort, pilots got to get out, and if there's a mission critical thing happening, we've got spare aircraft literally ready to go for this exact reason. So if we're putting 18 jets up in the air, we generally have 2 spares on standby. So on this day, we had 1 spare. So I signaled to the truck and I said, all right, we're probably going to ground abort. But I wanted to try something. And so most times people would just ground abort this and move them up. But my truck driver, my production supervisor, he had signaled to me that we only had 1 spare. So I thought, all right, well, I can either try to fix this, and if I fail, we'll ground abort this mission. If I take too long, we're going to ground abort this mission, because all the jets have to take off. And when you're in a forward operating base, they all have to take off at the same time for protection. They don't stagger them, because then they become targets. So on this day, I said, all right, let's try switching to manual mode. Do you know how to do that? Getting to manual mode is kind of a hard thing. Some pilots know how to do it, some don't. As long as he knows how to get into manual mode, we can probably fix this. So do you know how to get into manual mode, sir? There's a manual mode? So the reason for this is because there's 2 menus that you have to see, and the menus are completely blank to the pilot. It's something that only maintenance people are meant to get into while sitting in the seat. It requires a combination of buttons. So if you mess it up, you end up getting the radar into this environment where you actually can't get it back out of maintenance mode. And then we'll ground aboard anyway. And then I have to tell my production supervisor that we're ground aboarding because of a software issue. So I walked him through the manual settings, and we actually were able to get into it. So as I mentioned, it's important to know that the antenna is just one of these parts. You can't change it. You have to open up the nose cone entirely. And so this kind of gives you an idea of how it works when you're talking to the actual pilots itself. So during this time, my only job was to make sure that this mission could happen. That's it. I had to figure out how to fix this thing, and I said, all right, so the thing boots back up, and I said to him, is the antenna sweeping now, sir? And he goes, yes. And I was like, all right. I said, all right, so I need you to pull the antenna up into the upper right side, and we were going to recalibrate the servos at this point. And so we went through the reset process. He pulls the thing up there, and I was like, all right, let go of the button. Bam! It slams right back down to that left corner, and I was like, all right, well, this is it. I know how to fix this one. And what at that point, what it was telling me was, it was this super rare part that we called it the tank. It's the power supply. You never have to replace it. It's like a power supply in a computer. You almost never will start troubleshooting with this particular part. And so I said, you know what? We can fix this. So I signaled to the truck, and I said, all right, give me a power supply. He looked at me like I was crazy. It was one of those things that you don't call for a power supply on a Red Ball. So, you know, he took off because the production, he's trusting me. He's trusting me at this point as a professional, as a person who knows my systems inside and out. And if I'm calling for this part, it's either a last resort, Furman is completely crazy, or, you know, he knows something that we don't. So he tears off, and I said, all right, sir, let's shut down number 1, and we're gonna try to swap out a power supply for you, so bring down the radar. So, so he brings it down, I walk over there, and jump up on the ladder and start pulling the part out. And actually, I'll show you right up here. This is the radar package, as you can see. That's the entire inside of it. And again, it sits 10 to 15 feet off the ground, and every one of those parts weighs between 70 and 80 pounds. So, so I'm pulling this thing out and waiting for the truck to come back. So we get the part in, power the thing back up. I was like, what's going on? He goes, it's sweeping. I was like, okay, let's not touch it. Because he actually was like, should we run another test? And I was like, we are not going to run another test. So I disconnected my comm and, you know, threw him a salute and sent him on his way. I handed the comm back over to the crew chief, and we didn't have to ground abort that day. He took off. The mission was able to happen, and we had him up and running within 10 minutes. So although I wasn't actually flying the jet in this moment, I had contributed to this mission. So it was like an integral part of what was happening. This mission would not have happened if we weren't there to be able to do this thing. So today we don't work under those same kind of stresses, you know, or pressures or high stakes. But we do work in an environment where we're not sitting in the pilot seat. We're standing in front of the classroom. That's what we do. When it comes to technology on campus, there's entire teams supporting the mission of teaching and learning. Because SUNY Broome is a house of teaching and learning. Our job isn't to say you can't fly today, or you can't do the thing that you want to do. Our job is to ensure that you have the tools to do your job. Since I started here in 2013, I can't express just how often I'm impressed by the passion and expertise that I see on a regular basis. It comes out in every way, especially when I hear professors and instructors talking about integrating a new technology, or support staff, or anyone. The passion, it just seeps out of you when I see you talking to me about some sort of a new tech, and I absolutely love it. Today we're being asked more and more to think about how we can integrate new technologies into the classroom. So over the years, I started working on some ways to approach this, and approach it from a different angle. So at the start of any new project, I ask my team, does it support does it meet the 3 S's? Those 3 S's of, is it supportable, is it sustainable, and is it scalable? When thinking about the question of support, it's sometimes hard for us to properly explain, because you likely have this similar device at your home that just works. And it's easy to overlook that when something breaks in your home, you only have you to impress. You only have you to please. So if something breaks, how often do you have a broken piece of electronics at your house that you're just like, oh, well, that remote doesn't work. Go find the one that the dog chewed on last year. You know, we all have that thing. But we have a mission to support. When it's time to fix something broken, oftentimes, while the students are in the seat, no less, we need to ask ourselves, can our team support this? It means making sure everyone is trained on the day when the network, the software system, the control system, the server system, or any other number of systems that we maintain stops working, we're able to maintain it. When thinking about the question of whether a system is sustainable, what are the associated costs and how will those be taken care of in the future? If this system's purchased with a grant, what happens when we need to replace that system or provide continuing maintenance? Is the system going to integrate properly into our current systems? And most importantly, will this system last through a full life cycle? Lastly, in thinking about scalability, we ask ourselves, what happens when someone else on the campus is interested in using this same system or buying one for themselves? Can we grow with this, given the resources we have in both funding and manpower? Our goal is to ensure that everything we put in place works really well and solves a problem. If we launch something that requires a ton of maintenance or several hacks to make it work for us, that system isn't scalable. In fact, it quickly turns into a nightmare for everyone involved, because we end up committing more resources to than we should, and then the whole thing suddenly falls apart. So now you're upset with us. We're frustrated because maybe we've identified this, or maybe we didn't. Maybe it's a surprise to everyone. But oftentimes we are just in too deep at that point to ground report and go to the spare jet. Thanks. So what do? To start, we think long and hard about any new initiative. We honestly ask ourselves, is this supportable? I've heard departments wanting to work with us on projects, and they offer up a very gracious and thoughtful, well, we'll manage this ourselves. This can be sometimes a reasonable solution, but it's usually not, because we find that it's not a long-term solution. Inevitably, somebody will leave, or somebody will get promoted, and then the person who comes in behind them is either unable to or unwilling to continue to support that thing. Instead, we can work with you to be certain that we know what will go into the proposed system, whatever it might be. Next, we ask ourselves before any money is even spent, is this sustainable? Buying a new piece of hardware or launching a new global initiative is hard enough. But if we don't have a long-term plan on how we can best keep it running, or even if we get our campus to use it, we'll find ourselves failing before we start and we won't even know it. Because by the time the system fails or requires an upgrade, we'll be already onto another project and maybe not have the resources or the manpower to be able to continue to maintain them. Lastly, we need to ask ourselves, is this scalable? When we start buying a few really cool pieces of technology, it often seems easy to manage in small numbers. But those numbers, grow due to success. Is this mission going to suffer because of it? So again, what do? Engage us early. When you're interested in a new project, we can help. Our only job is to support teaching and learning. We aren't here to tell you no. And it's not until a project corners us in a position that we can't back out of that we even get to the point where we're approaching a no. This is our favorite moment. I hardly know a technologist who doesn't get excited by the prospect of solving a new problem. Yeah, you should see my guys' eyes light up when I come in and I say, we got something new to work on. I really, it doesn't matter who they are. My part-time guys, my full-time guys, some of the different support people on campus, it's what we do, it's what we love, it's in our DNA. And so maybe your dean has told you that we need to integrate more technology into the classroom. Maybe your chair has asked you to get with your department and sit and brainstorm some ideas on new ways that you can integrate technology into your classroom. Maybe one of the vice presidents wants to go after some grant, and we got to find some money, and you've been asked, go spend this grant money. Either way, this is the easy part. Because when you don't know where to start or how to start a project, you can call us. You can just simply pick up the phone and say, Furman, I've been asked to do this, and here's the goal. Because it's perfectly okay to say the words, the radar isn't working and I don't know what to do, are you able to fix this? We're not afraid of these questions because it means that we're able to come up with a solution that works for everyone, no matter who you are, what the project is, or anything like that. So I'll tell you a story. Last year, Sandy Wright came to me, well, she actually emailed me, and she wanted to tell me about this new cross-departmental project that she was going to work on. And I could tell that there was some hesitancy in, let's see this slide. Go back one. Great. So she started emailing me by telling me, hey, there's this new project I want to work on. And she started telling me about how she wanted to integrate this technology. And this, quite literally was the conversation that is exactly how we can hit a home run. Because oftentimes, it's easy to start out a project and say, this is the thing that I want. This is the solution that I want. And that's akin to me coming up to the jet and the pilot saying, radar's broke, we gotta get out. At that point, he hasn't even given me a chance to try to fix it. And he also didn't know that we didn't have another spare, right? This is the same sort of thing. So she says, hey, here's the problem that we want to solve. Here's how we want to do it. And it's actually pretty awesome. She threw out this term called COW, which I had to learn, which I later found out. It stands for computer on wheels. So I was at the hospital with my father and sitting in the bed and they wheeled up one of these things. And I said, do you guys call that a cow? And she goes, no, we call it a workstation on wheels. and she goes, and it's exactly because of that, because you could have been talking about anyone. So it's quite funny. So oftentimes a pilot, he will just say, hey, the thing's broken, or what can you do here? So maybe we already have something in place, that can solve your problem. Or maybe we've already been testing something that I can say, hey, there's this new piece of technology that we want to try out, and it might work for you. Bringing tech to you is what we do best. So after working through all the questions we had for both the BIT team and the health sciences team, we started research on how we could build a system that they needed that would also be something that we could maintain and support. Some of you may have actually stopped by the table over there, and you can see the cow, or workstation on wheels over there. And by the way, these units that we built for them are scalable, sustainable, and supportable. So, and this project isn't isolated. We do this all the time in a very successful way. In the basement of the business building, we have a recording studio. Here, the sign language students and the public speaking students come in to record themselves. There was a time when just one person on my team knew how to work all of that system. But over this past year, we've been able to work with them and try to understand how they want to teach in their classrooms and modify our systems in a supportable, scalable, and sustainable way. Tichenor 103 communication staff has bought some new broadcast hardware that they brought over here to support their curriculum. Last week, we successfully linked our system that we've got in the basement of business to theirs. This completely changes the way that they can teach that class with remote location. And it's all because we just wanted to solve a problem. Chris called me up, it was pretty awesome. He said, hey Furman, do you think we can hook our two systems together? And I said, well, the networking people aren't here, so let's try it. So we were able to do this live stream between our studio and Tichenor 103. It's pretty awesome. 2 years ago, Kathleen McKenna approached us about an idea to teach a class with international students, mixed with our students remotely using live video conferencing. It's called Collaborative Online International Learning. We've been able to work together to solve problems with that since the program first started, and it is scaled each semester. There's examples of this all over campus. In the basement at Tichenor, we have the Radio Lab, B129, B132, B133 are setting the standard for what our high-end classrooms are going to look like. Again, all conversations revolving around Mark Ryan calling me up and saying, Furman, here's what I want to do in this classroom. It allowed us to do what we do best. Corinne Surdy and her team have also implemented a new training model for Blackboard. It includes Blackboard Basics, which she's tabling over here for. It's an online training option specifically designed for those faculty wishing to supplement their face-to-face course sections with an online Blackboard component. This supportable, sustainable, and scalable approach not only gives the faculty the skills they need, but it also provides a reusable framework that can be recycled every semester. So what's next? What are we working on for the future? Today, the tables are set up around here, around this gym, represent just a taste of the technologies that we've got and that we're working on here on campus. Did you know that we have a competitive esports team here at SUNY Broome? If you don't know what esports is, you need to go talk to these folks, because even if you've never played a video game before, I think you would be incredibly impressed to ask them questions about what they do, what the team is doing, how it was formed, etc. I think they're giving away some cool t-shirts. Yep. So please stop by and ask them some questions. Slide. This semester, we've launched a synchronous classroom in downtown Oneonta. I think Dr. Haynes had mentioned this. This was a thing that middle of last December, they came to us and said, Furman, do you think you could make it so we can video conference remotely to Oneonta every day without fail, without a tech, 2 hours away? That was the coolest question I'd been asked in a really long time, because I got to go to my tech and I got to say, okay guys, like this is a problem we need to solve. And this was right before we were going on Christmas break. So on the day, I remember I walked in and talked to my tech, Scott Pavlich, and I said, this is your baby. I am not going to be able to solve problems for you. I'm tied up in the CBC. You're going to have to figure out how to make this work. And sure enough, he did. And so he was able to build this TV stand and the PC that's on it and the camera systems. And we've actually got a demo of that back there with Stefan.
Nice job, Scott.
Also, we finished a little project you might have heard of called the Culinary Events Center. Speaking of, stop in and talk to our networking folks, because they are going to be able to tell you about the fiber connection that we have between here and downtown. And they'll be able to tell you why that's important and why that was complicated. It's also a very interesting story. Ask them what they've learned about student Wi-Fi on campus. They were able to analyze our student usage of Wi-Fi. We learned some things that we didn't even realize. You know, and when people are complaining about the Wi-Fi, we now can better answer those questions about why it's doing what it's doing. Slide. We've got folks from the library. One more. There you go. We've got folks from the library here showing off their accessibility hardware. Slide. Criminal justice just bought some miniature drones that can be flown by students. Nigel's over here showing those off. During the mock disaster, they used some drone footage for that. It's pretty awesome. Computer science is building a virtual reality lab. This is an amazing collaboration. I don't know if you know anything about virtual reality or if you've ever seen anything, but they have built a virtual reality park. This is a pretty big deal for us. And it's another collaboration. I think it's going to be an absolute home run because they've got their technician along with their faculty actually working together to try to come up with a solution, make the systems scalable and sustainable. Slide. EMT is getting their long-awaited upgrade to their ambulance system. Nigel's showing that off over there as well. This is something that I've been promising them for 7 years, but the technology just wasn't there for us to be able to put something together that was digital, that could integrate with their current systems, and also be supportable and sustainable by us. I have a feeling that once we put this system in, it's going to scale to other areas of campus, and we'll find other uses for it. Somebody will say, hey, I want to do this thing, and I'll say, I know exactly how I can help you. ITS has expanded our checkout hardware available to students and faculty and staff. This is something that we put together a few semesters ago, and people slowly started trickling in. Hey, Furman, do you have a projector? Do you have a laptop? Do you have this? Do you have that? And we've just grown this and grown this and grown this to the point where now, at the start of every semester, the actual thing that we were worried would happen actually happens, which is I have a line of students outside my door waiting to check out laptops. Faculty come in and they check out these projectors and portable screens, like what you see up here. Slide. And a lot more. So please take the time to walk around and talk to each of these folks at these different tables. You might find yourself excited to see something new or touch some piece of new technology, or maybe you'll learn about a new tech that you didn't even know existed. But most importantly, maybe you'll have an idea about how you want to integrate technology into your classroom and be armed with the questions and the tools and the vocabulary to be able to start a conversation with whomever is going to help you make that thing happen. Slide. So with that in mind, go back. Go back. With that in mind, there's one more thing that I want to talk about that we're working on in the future, and this falls directly in line with seeing and touching something new. Several years ago, John Petcash came and told me about this idea that he had for this place where you could walk in and see and touch and play with some sort of new technology. You know, one of the things that we constantly are doing back in my department is we're always playing with some sort of new technology. Today I'm showing off one of our conference cams that didn't make the cut. And I picked that specifically because I didn't want to show you the conference cam that we're going to be using everywhere that you've probably seen. I wanted to show you the one that we tested out that didn't work, the one that we hated, the one that was too expensive, that wasn't supportable, that wasn't sustainable. And Stefan's got that thing back there. Everything about it on paper is the absolute perfect conference cam. It follows the speaker, it does automatic zooming in and out, and it was awful. We hated everything about it. And we know that you would too. So you will never see that in a production. But how would you know? How would you ever know that, I said this thing sucks? So we're talking about putting together this space that will allow you to see these things. So after they come off of our bench, when I say to the guys, okay, we're all good, we have this, right now we have this 40+ inch curved screen monitor sitting down there. But I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I think Petcash wants it on his desk. But if anyone else in here raises your hand, you might get it first. Tell me, Ken. So after that's done, they just go back into the box, especially if they don't make the cut. If they make the cut, it ends up in a classroom or whatever. But if they go back in the box, they just sit up on the shelf, and then someday we're like, oh, well, I guess we don't need this thing anymore. But I'd love to be able to have a space where I can put it in there and invite you down, and we can hang out in this space as the tech folks here on campus. And you can come in and you say, oh, tell me about this thing. And you say, oh, that sucks, but so this idea is very new. We haven't really worked out all the logistics yet, but it's a project that I promise you you're going to be hearing a lot more about in the future. So I'll ask the question again. What do we do, right? We support teaching and learning. SUNY Broome supports teaching and learning. From the professors standing in front of the classroom, to the techs who keep the hardware running, the maintenance people, who, by the way, are an absolute class act. If you haven't thanked a maintenance person or a custodial worker today, please do. 2,000 8th graders absolutely destroyed these buildings. Please find your custodial workers. And our maintenance guys are absolutely awesome. awesome. Right now, we put in a work order to have 2 televisions hung in one of the business room classrooms, and I thought it was going to take a week or more. I walked past it today on my way here. They're hanging those TVs. They always are there when I need them. They always show up, and they're always ready to play and support the mission. So, our vendors who stay on the phone with us when we troubleshoot a system after it didn't reboot, because all of you folks may have had one day off, but we're powering down systems to check if battery backups work. Then the systems come back up and they just don't boot, so we have to be on the phone for hours and hours and hours. So my friend Randy says, "Oh yeah, we were here until about 5 a.m." And I said, "Why is that?" He says, "Oh, you know, whatever, tech. That's an awesome answer. The support staff who help keep this place running. The student support staff who are there for students when they need them, the security folks who take care of matters that we often don't even realize is happening, and of course our administration who's always called upon to make tough calls. Every one of us support the exact same mission, that mission of teaching and learning. Since the turn of the century, we found ourselves here at SUNY Broome pushing to implement new technology at an unbelievable rate, taking on projects like moving from Outlook to Gmail, implementing Starfish, migrating from Angel to Blackboard, upgrading to Windows 10, replacing updated hardware in the classrooms, upgrading our virtual environments for systems and servers that you don't even know exists, upgrading to Banner 9. With each of these new initiatives comes problems that require us to think differently. It requires us to focus on solving the problem first, and this is the most effective path to success. But we also recognize that sometimes we don't even know the problem. For every collaborative project we launch, there could be people out there who don't even know where to start. That's okay. I encourage every one of you to give us a call. Give your tech person a call. Who you trust, call them. Call one of my guys, call me, call John. You can call one of us and just start asking questions. This is how we started. We can build a policy around this with forms to fill out and go to this website and make this request, but that takes away that human connection. That takes away my ability to solve your problems. So give us a call. Tell me, Furman, I was wondering if there was some way that I could teach with a microscope in my class and be able to put it up on the screen. And this morning somebody came to me with this. Are you able to do this? Of course I'm able to do that. I completely forgot that we had talked about that in the summer. Shoot me an email. I'm going to go back to my office today and order the part. It's not an expensive part. It's something that we can do, problem solved. And it works with the document cameras that we've already got. But you can see how that could have gone very differently. Hey Furman, I bought a new microscope. Can you come make it work? Well, there's no drivers for it, and it doesn't work with Windows 10, and suddenly like we turn into these bad guys, right? So it requires us to focus on the problem solving. So I encourage you to give us a call. Oh, I got one. So I've been working with the math department about a new touchscreen technology. They came to me and they said, hey, we're going to go visit one of the high schools and see this touchscreen. And I said, cool. And as it turned out, I was buying a touchscreen for the Oneonta classroom too, so I got all excited. I was like, oh, you should come down and see this new screen. So the math department calls me and they're like, hey, Furman, we're ready to see your new screen. And I'm like, well, it's in Oneonta now, because we decided that's where we've got to move it for this emergency thing. I said, but you're in luck, because I'll steal the one that I bought for John Petcash, and you guys can use that one. So yesterday they got to play all day with one of our new touchscreens. It's got some new technology, it rotates, it's something that I'm not sure that I would necessarily install it in a classroom, but they got to play with it. And that was something that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. They would have just gotten the thing that I eventually said, this is what you get. So, again, back to that same question. What do we do? It's an important question to answer because it keeps our most important mission at the front of our minds. If you were to wander into any of the offices of any of the people that I listed before, besides doing their regular job that they do every day, you might see some experimentation, no matter who they are, no matter what the department is. You might see them playing with some kind of a new tech that you didn't know exists. As an example, right now in my area, we're trying out that video conferencing thing that I talked about. This will allow us to have better options for you when we're approached to try out something new. Somebody came and I told you guys about the video conferencing capabilities. The other thing that we've been getting asked is, hey, can you record my classroom? This is something that I've been getting asked for as long as I've been here. Can you come set up a video camera and record my classroom? Well, it's not something that we support. It's not something that IT is tasked to do as a department. But we're experimenting with some technology that we can provide to you that allows you to do everything that's supportable, scalable, sustainable. And in time, these different things that we're trying out, or some version of them, are going to make their way into production. And before you know it, you'll be doing something new with something that you haven't before. And right now, there's certain technologies that you've already got in your classrooms or your learning environments or your offices that you didn't have just a few years ago. And it doesn't stop there. As I mentioned, for a lot of you, ITS is represented by this stuff that you touch, right? Maybe ITS is represented by some software that you do, use to do your job. Most everyone in here is working in Banner or Argos or something like that. But the truth is, ITS is really an entire team of over 20 people, plus all of the different technologists and techs that are scattered all over campus. They're working behind the scenes every day to move ones and zeros, the way that they're supposed to in order to support teaching and learning. And ITS isn't even just centralized. We've got people that are constantly out there. Some of the folks who are at these tables over here are technologists themselves, and they don't fall under ITS, but they're supporting that same mission of teaching and learning. But in the end, we're all here for the same thing. Ultimately, when you're asked the question of what do we do, no matter who you're asked, no matter who you are, no matter where you work, no matter what your job is, the answer is we support teaching and learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Furman. So, what we really want to leave you with is think of things that you might want to do that will help your teaching. We don't necessarily have the answers, but we want you to be willing to try things, and we kind of put Furman as the point person. If you have some ideas, this is something that I want to try, is it something that I can do? Take it to him. If it's not him, he'll send you in the right direction. He's also very good, as well as John, in keeping me up to date with some of the ideas that people want to try. If you need professional development, let us know that. We have a great professional development committee. There's things that they can provide. If there's something that seems to be, a lot of people are interested in this, that's something that we can certainly do. So share your ideas with each other and see what's going on around the table. I think that would really help you. Ask for help. Speak with your chairs, your deans, Furman, ITS. Request any kind of professional development that you think you might need. See what others have done. Go out and someone just said they went out into high schools to even see what some of the equipment that they have. We'll definitely support that. Try something new. I guess we really, in the end, don't want you to say, I can't do it. Maybe, in the end, someone will say you can't do it because maybe we don't have the money, or maybe someone tells me, maybe that finance says, no, you can't do it. But let's find out, because there are things that we really want to do. And generally, when we're supporting teaching and learning, the support is there. So keep thinking of things that you want to do, things that you want to try. That's really our message for today. So have a great semester. Best wishes with everything. Keep warm, and next time we talk, hopefully it'll be warm. Thank you.